Hello and welcome back to Wit and Grit. I'm Sean Duiser. He's Ian Price. Got a
We
big
don't have
show
time for
you
a cold
today.
open today, Sean. We don't have time for the cold
Okay.
open.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot.
We don't. I know you're trying to do a bit. You got a bit ready. You wanted to do
Yeah.
the bit. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going deep into the NFL draft. We got a comprehensive scouting guide from Dan Brugler's The Beast. Got some local players to talk to you about from some schools like Virginia Tech, UVA, Liberty, JMU, Charlotte. One of them may even make you do a double take here. We got a media scandal to talk about with some journalism ethics questions baked into it. Ian's got some unique perspective on that. F1's a mess kind of right now in the best possible way. Before any of that, though, Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel, Ian, you've been following this.
Oof. Well, it looks like one thing and then it's another thing, right?
Right.
I mean, basically, it looks pretty incriminating. Page 6, the New York Post gossip operation. Dropped photos earlier this week of Diana Russini, who is the Athletics' top NFL insider and one of the highest paid reporters in New York Times company history. And New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel, who just brought the Pats back to the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
The photos were taken at a place called the Ambide, a luxury adult resort in Sedona, Arizona. Poolside, hot tub, rooftop deck, holding hands and whatnot. Both of them are married to other people.
Right.
I guess it just looks bad, right, Sean?
Yeah, so it's definitely bad optics out of context for sure. But I mean, context matters in a situation like this, right? Like both of them immediately pushed back.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Russini said the photos were taken out of context. She described it as a group of 6 people hanging out during the day. The Athletics executive editor, Steven Ginsberg, backed her up publicly and called the photos misleading and lacking essential context. Vrabel called it a completely innocent interaction and said any suggestion otherwise is laughable. He was in he was there for a scouting event in Arizona State. I mean, the same week. So there's a legitimate reason. I also read somewhere that it was before one of the NFL owners meetings or something over there.
Yeah, right. You mentioned page 6. They had some anonymous sources kind of push back on that side of things, though, on the group story, right?
Well, they did. One anonymous witness said, no, he was with a girl when asked about a group. And that's where the machine becomes interesting. Right? Because page 6 didn't need a smoking gun photo. They had hand holding a hot tub, 2 married people with a professional history going back to when Russini was at ESPN and Vrabel was coaching Tennessee Titans. Remember that? They had hope. And that's all they needed. Whoever took these photos probably took 1,000 of them and picked the best ones. And they had a Who is Diana Russini SEO article ready to go the moment traffic hit. So it's not really journalism. It's more like strategy.
Yeah, I mean, but back up 1 second. That professional relationship piece is legitimately worth scrutinizing, though, right? Like she covers the NFL. He coaches an NFL team. That part is a real question.
Uncomfortable part. I mean, if you're asking whether a reporter having a visible personal relationship with a major NFL source deserves scrutiny, yeah. I mean, that's a fair question in any newsroom, but the way this story was executed has nothing to do with journalism ethics. It's using the veneer of a legitimate question around a story that's really just insinuation. The awful announcing piece on this put it well. The story is already set in stone in the court of public opinion, regardless of what's true. And female sports journalists already face a different level of scrutiny than their male counterparts do. So, I mean, this kind of story entrenches exactly those dynamics. And here's the part I have to acknowledge directly. Even us talking about it right now is part of that machine. That's how good it is. It's like we don't want to be part of it, but here we are as another cog of it. But as far as we're talking about like what happens with the professionalism of it all, Adam Schefter's leaked emails that had him saying yes, editor or whatever. Like this is not the first time we've seen the ugly side of breaking NFL news.
No,
and it just goes to show you that the real kind of breaking news that comes out is investigative pieces that will just drop out of nowhere, and it's not going to be as exciting or as flashy because for tax reasons, the NFL is an entertainment business. So them feeding stories to certain reporters would be probably completely legal.
Yeah, and I mean the way that happens is through relationship building, right? To get those breaking stories is by having those unique relationships. So it's definitely, like you said, kind of an uncomfortable situation. Like, yeah, she does have to respect kind of the professionalism, and he does as well for that matter. That kind of dynamic calls for, but having a relationship outside of the professional one, not non-romantic one, of course, is like I would say normal for these reporters and these like sources, stuff like that.
I would say, yeah, if she was hanging out with Mike Vrabel and people, her husband probably definitely knew about it.
Yeah,
she always talks about how he loves that stuff. But
absolutely.
she also has joked a couple of times about how they were going to get a divorce at the end of the year and all this stuff. And it's like, is she joking or not, or is she just always gone all the time? Like she's telling stories on Dan Levitard about how her mom will call her and say that her husband needs to leave her because he needs somebody who's around more.
Yeah, it's all just kind of like I don't know, kind of a gross story, honestly. But
yeah, honestly,
all right,
because it's gross if it's true, and it's gross if it's not, because it's just people trying to hang out at a pool, a private pool, I might add, that's hard to get to.
Right.
Clearly, that's what you wanted, was privacy in that situation. But
no. So anyway, let's turn the page on that. We've been kind of talking about this one for a couple weeks now. I mentioned Dane Brugler's the beast that Ian got his hands on. Goes through about 2,700 players, a little more. It's the most comprehensive NFL draft guide in the business, and it's published by The Athletic, speaking of, which is interesting, given what we just talked about there. We're going to go to position group by position group, going to hit the local players that you need to know about, and got some numbers that are going to stop you cold here. So let's start at the top. Ian, you've got some game-breaking news on the number one pick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback, consensus number one overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, led Indiana to a 16-0 undefeated national championship season, 3,535 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 72% completion percentage, 90.3 QBR. He also ran 444 yards and 7 touchdowns. So the Raiders have the number one pick, and this is not a question. He's going to Las Vegas.
Yeah, right. Definitely. And the breaking news earlier this week is that he's not going to be attending the draft in Pittsburgh, right? Staying home in Miami with his family.
That's the word on the street.
Right. And there's a good reason behind that, though. Nobody's really saying it out loud.
I pasted the new script in here.
Oh.
So we're gonna have to put a break there, but I figured if it shortened it up.
Okay.
Where did this part? There's a good reason behind that directly.
Yeah, I just asked you about that, if that's where you want to pick up.
Yeah. His mother, Elsa, has battled multiple sclerosis for years and uses a wheelchair. He didn't cite this publicly, but the connection is clear. The last number one pick to skip the draft was Trayvon Walker in 2022. This is different. This is a son who just won the Heisman and the national championship, deciding the most important place he can be on draft night is home with his mom.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to blame someone like in that situation, right? I think I'd make the same call there. I imagine most people would make the same call in that situation, given the context. So I'm sure it'll be, a really important night for the both of them, and I'm glad that he is going to be where he wants to be in that sort of situation.
The Raiders have set him up well. Kirk Cousins is the bridge, $20 million guaranteed. Cousins knows head coach Clint Kubiak from Minnesota. Tom Brady and GM John Spytek have both said publicly they believe in not rushing young quarterbacks. Mendoza is already installing the full Raiders offense with Brian Greasy, not just footwork, full verbiage and concepts, being compared to what Burrow did pre-draft. So the foundation is right. When you know you have a quarterback who's not going to fight coming to you, you're going to take him first overall. whatever you can do, not getting fined is what people are doing. But
Yeah.
I think he had some concerns too, didn't he?
Yeah, so Brugler flagged a few things here. 3% of his college snaps came from under center. That's a very low amount. The Raiders run more plays under center than almost any team in the NFL, so that's something to watch out for there. So when he faced true pressure, his competition dropped. His completion percentage dropped to 50%. So just a couple of things to watch, but still the right pick for sure.
All right.
And some more about the rest of the class, right? Kind of thinking about things from the Dolphins angle, name further down that caught my eye.
Well, first let's start with QB2, Ty Simpson. I mean, depending on who you talk to, he's either an idiot or the best thing that nobody's talking about. Like, people are just so hot or cold on him. Dane Brugler compares him to Daniel Jones with fewer physical traits. So a mid-level starter at best, backup at worst. QB3 is Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, aggressive competitor, throws that can win games and lose them. So one of the guys that always gets labeled a gunslinger. QB4 is Drew Allier. Impressive size and arm. Passing instincts need work, though. I mean, we're not familiar with any of these guys for the draft because no one's talking about them.
Yeah, ESPN's Benjamin Solak had Miami as a landing spot for Ayler potentially. The thinking he makes anticipation throws into tight windows, which is hard to teach. Maybe a day 3 early pick. He can beat out Quinn Ewers for QB2 and challenge for QB1 if Willis struggles.
Very Dolphins way to solve a quarterback problem.
Yeah. I don't know if they're looking for the long-term answer necessarily this season, but we'll see.
I think they need too much help to go that direction. But
yeah,
I think the Dolphins need to just draft more positions and leave quarterback alone this year.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the rest of the class. Cole Payton, North Dakota State, dual threat, needs time. Carson Beck, Miami, cerebral pocket passer. Taylon Green, Arkansas, great highlight reel, 37 turnovers in 2 seasons. Cade Klubnik, Clemson, backup track. And locally, Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech, quarterback number 27 in the Beast, not very high. I mean, we'll get back to him in the local segment.
Yeah, we got some running backs to talk about. I was kind of digging into this class. Something jumped out immediately. Notre Dame. How often does one school put 2 backs in the top 10 in the same draft class, Ian?
Almost never. Notre Dame has 2 running backs in the top 10 of their class, Love and Price. So that's a program statement. RB1 is Jeremiah Love. Nobody's arguing that. Overall, number 2 in the Beast. So this is a best player available pick, not a positional pick. One of the draft's top athletes, explosive, remarkable blend of balance and burst. So whoever takes him isn't reaching on a running back. They're taking the second best player in the draft, at least according to Beast.
Right. And his Notre Dame teammate.
Jadarian Price, my cousin. I'm just kidding. RB2, starting caliber talent, he's got work to do in pass catching and ball security. But those two sharing a backfield tells you everything about what Notre Dame was doing offensively, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one name I wanted to flag regionally was Demon Claiborne. He's from Wake Forest, RB7 in Brugler's list. He describes him as a low-calorie Devon Achane, small, darting, electric. Winston-Salem kid, close to us geographically here. So that comparison tells you really what you're getting, and not the full size, but you are getting the juice.
I mean, right? For Liberty, we've got Julian Gray, RB 114 in the Beast. Day 3 back with real receiving ability. So Flames fans, that's your guy. And Harrison Whaley, UVA running back 80. A lot better than 114, but good explosiveness for a smaller back.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we've got what we're calling here the Freaks segment, right? I need to set this up. By the time we get to the end of this, Hokie fans are going to start to lose their minds. Ian, Kenyon Sadiq, what you got?
Kenyon Sadiq, Oregon, tight end 1. Overall, number 9 in the Beast. He's 6'3", 241 pounds. I mean, he's got some good combine numbers. 4.3940, fastest ever recorded by a tight end in combine history. 43.5-inch vertical. Second best ever by a tight end. 11'1" broad jump, third best ever by a tight end.
And there's the weight qualifier that makes those numbers really even more insane.
Only DK Metcalf and Nick Amorori have ever matched sub 4.4 speed, a 40-plus inch vertical, and an 11-plus foot broad jump at 220 pounds or heavier. Sadiq is the heaviest of the three. He arrived at Oregon at 220, built himself to 255, cut to roughly 10% body fat. So power cleaned 365, benched 435. The body transformation is part of the story.
Yeah, and with 3 seasons at Oregon, he had 80 catches, 892 yards, 11 touchdowns, which is modest for a likely top 15 pick. He ran 58% of the routes from the slot, led all FBS tight ends in those slot touchdowns. Brugler's caveats on him: he drops on routine throws, not contested catches, the routine ones. Blocking technique, still a work in progress. 241 pounds, a bit light for an NFL tight end. Defensive ends are going to be able to test him. So kind of brings us to the debate, is it more of a Kyle Pitts or Brock Bowers sort of situation?
Well, walk us through the Pitts case, right?
Yeah, so he went 4th overall in 2021, and he's still on the Falcons on a franchise tag. Not a long-term deal, never reached a ceiling, really. The concern is the unicorn tight end has become a draft trap.
That's we've been talking about on this trap for years. I mean, the counter to the Kyle Pitts is Brock Bowers. Undersized, modest college production, went to the Raiders, set the all-time rookie reception record for a tight end immediately. The league is shifting toward weapons at tight end, not blockers. Sadiq could be that. Brugler calls him a unicorn prospect with all-pro upside. Analysts compare his projected rookie impact to Sam Laporta, Bowers, and Tyler Warren. All recent picks who delivered fast. I mean, if you're taking a rookie in fantasy football, it's a good tight end. It's probably your best bet.
Yep. So, floor play or ceiling play?
Ceiling play. The question is whether the team taking him in the top 15 can afford to wait 2 years on blocking and ball security. Some rosters can, some cannot.
All right. Hokie fans, go ahead and sit down. Ian, Donovan Green.
Donovan Green, Virginia Tech wide receiver, number 74 in the Beast, 6'1", 200 pounds, 4.4640. A day 3 pick, limited college production, same knock as Sadiq. His vertical jump was 43.5 inches.
Yeah, same as Sadiq.
Broad jump, 11 feet, 6 inches.
Get better than Sadiq.
A Virginia Tech wide receiver outjumped the most athletic tight end in draft history in the broad jump. We just spent 7 minutes on the most physically gifted tight end prospect anyone has ever seen, and there's a Hokie sitting in day 3 pile with the same vertical and a better broad jump. Same exact knock, limited production.
I mean, one of those diamonds in the rough that you hope your team can kind of find on draft day, when it comes. It's, like you said, day 3 kind of prospect, but potential day 1's tight production if things work out. If he can figure out some of those drops, get that, the production up from the college numbers, who knows, man. So be interested to see what happens with Donovan.
For sure.
All right, on to Ohio State. 5 players in the overall top 10. That's crazy. Who we got?
5 Buckeyes in the overall top 10 of the Beast. Arvil Reese, edge number 1 overall. Sonny Styles, linebacker, number 4. Caleb Downs, safety number 5. Carnell Tate, wide receiver number 10. Caden McDonald, defensive tackle. No other school is close. What does that tell you?
I mean, clearly Ryan Day's figured out how to recruit and develop NFL talent at every level of the roster simultaneously. That's program depth right there. That's not just a hot year.
Walk me through some edge rushers.
Sure, yeah. Reese at number 1 overall, the versatile defender with physical traits to become a dominant pass rusher. David Bailey out of Texas Tech, number 7. Quick twitch, disruptive, and powerful. Ruben Bain Jr., Miami, power and play style will disrupt NFL backfields. Keldrick Falk, he's from Auburn. Almost any plays on tape. He's worth the bet for sure. Akeem Mesidor, also out of Miami, likely 3-down starter there. So some really interesting names on that list.
Yeah, defensive tackles, McDonald leads, obviously from Ohio State. Dominant run defender, immediately useful on early downs. Peter Woods, Clemson, explosive, but needs consistency. Offensive tackles, OT1 is Spencer Fano, Utah, number 8 overall. Brugler's note, when Utah needed a yard, they ran behind number 55. That's high praise. Francis Moigoa, Miami, maybe better at guard than tackle at the NFL level. Monroe Freeling, Georgia, young and ascending.
Yeah, got some good guards too. Oliaveva got Ane from Penn State. It's a really tricky name. I'll learn it, I promise.
Oliave Vega.
Ioane?
Oliave Vega Ioane.
Yeah. We'll
Man, that is tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We'll get there. But about his play, kind of one of those thick, nasty maulers on track to be kind of a long-term NFL starter there. You want this guy on your team for sure, even if his name is hard to say. We've got Chase Bisantis too out of Texas A&M, another one worth mentioning there. Just kind of a versatile, strong player that you can maybe move around on the line a little bit if you need to. What about VT in the trenches?
Tomas Remek, offensive tackle, number 32 in the Beast. 6'5", 312, 495, 40 at that weight. Genuinely athletic for a man that size. Day 3 with real upside. Ben Bell, tight end, number 58. 4.69 40. 3 cone of 6.89. So that cone shows he can move. Day 3 sleeper, Kelvin Gilliam Jr., defensive tackle, number 86. 4.76 40 at 296 pounds. 34 bench reps. That 40 gets noticed on day 3.
Secondary, linebackers, the local stories. It's the real stories, not a stat dump, Ian. Corners, what do we got from there?
CB1 is Mansour Delane, LSU, number 6 overall. Alpha competitor who projects as a starter despite average size. CB2 is Jermod McCoy, Tennessee. This is the wild card of the entire class. He missed all of 2025 with a torn ACL. Before the injury, he looked like a potential top 10 pick. His medical report could single-handedly determine whether this is an elite cornerback class or merely a good one. One report swings an entire position group. CB3, Chris Johnson, San Diego State. CB4, Avion Terrell, Clemson, undersized, bet on his quickness. CB5, Colton Hood, Tennessee, balanced, scrappy, likely an early starter. So, we've got 2 Tennessees in the top 5 of corner positions there.
Right. Kind of the same defensive backfield position group, but looking at safeties, looking at Caleb Downs out of Ohio State, number 5 overall, 2 full seasons without allowing a touchdown. That's just insane, especially the way the game's evolving in college. Dylan Thieneman, Oregon, versatile, fits almost any scheme there. You got some linebackers for us?
Sonny Styles, Ohio State, number 4 overall. We already mentioned him. Freaky athlete on track to be an impact linebacker. Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech, quarterback of the defense. CJ Allen, Georgia, coachable, high IQ, often a step ahead of teammates. So I want you to talk about the position group that everyone else seems to slowly be coming around to.
Yeah.
If we were giving out a best bet, because you can't make it in Virginia, but if you are hearing this on the internet, maybe not the radio, maybe you're going to leave town, maybe you got a way to do it. Plus money on more than 5.5 wide receivers in the first round. I've heard it from other podcasts. I've looked into it. I like the idea behind it. Essentially, we talked about it last week. Wide receivers that are good are not getting signed by other teams, are getting signed back to their own team. So you got to draft one. So if you're unsure about quarterbacks and things like that, it might be the year that everybody takes a swing at a wide receiver.
Right. And I mean, definitely a few worth mentioning here. Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, number 10 overall. He's a day 1 starter, potential Pro Bowler, in his first year there. So Mekhi Lehman from USC, he's got hints of Amon-Ra St. Brown there. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State evokes Stephon Diggs. And then Justin Jolie, an NC State tight end, built in the mold of Jonnu Smith. So someone that you can maybe play around with there is a bit of an X factor on the offense. ACC connection for anyone here in the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about Donovan Green with the numbers, but Green's career has been an obstacle course. 4-star recruit out of Mount Airy, North Carolina. One of the highest rated receivers Wake Forest had signed in years. Redshirted year one, lost the entire 2021 season to injury, lost all of 2023 to injury. Every time he built momentum, something took him out. He transferred to Virginia Tech for one last shot, caught 16 balls in 9 games, and apparently the combine was the first time scouts got to really see what he is. The Bills and Chiefs both sent scouts to his private workout. He's going day 3, but it looks like he's gonna get drafted.
Yeah, that'll be fun to keep an eye on. Speaking of local, keeping it there, Kyron Drones. Family angle here is really something.
Kyron Drones is the cousin of Cam Ward, the guy who went number 1 overall last year. They've worked out together, same family. Drones has been watching his cousin get drafted first while he goes back for another season at Virginia Tech, trying to prove he belongs. Dual threat quarterback with genuine arm talent. ESPN's Jordan Reed had him in the names to know category for this class. 6 NFL teams reached out ahead of the draft. He's probably an undrafted free agent who gets a camp invite, but the tools are real and the bloodline speaks for itself.
Clearly. I mean, Cam Ward, definitely someone that's good to be in the same conversation with, regardless of the reason, for looking at raw quarterback talent. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Kid out of Charlotte, Reed Williford, my city. People here know his name. If they don't, they should. Played linebacker for Charlotte, but came up as a wide receiver, actually. He converted in college. First player in Charlotte history to block multiple kicks in the same season. Owns the program's all-time record with 3 career block kicks. Kind of moves like a skill player because he was one, right? He's going to be day 3, but he's got a real shot at a 53-man roster.
And one more, Nick Velsistas, Virginia Tech punter from Fairfax, Virginia. Waited 4 years to become the starter, had 1 season to prove himself, averaged 45.5 yards per punt, put 16 inside the opponent's 20. Washington Commanders brought him in for their local pro day. He told Draft Media, "I believe I have the highest upside of anyone in this class. That is a punter saying that. I respect it. He's a top 20 punter in this draft. Frank Beamer built Virginia Tech partly on special teams dominance." So Nick Velsistas is in that tradition, and he might hear his name called.
All right. We've got some pop culture stuff here to get to. Let's start with Spielberg, right? He's on his press tour. He revealed that he was attached to direct Interstellar originally for a year before walking away, handing it to Christopher Nolan. Yeah, you've seen that film a ton of times, Ian, right? What's your reaction to that?
I'm glad he gave it up. I mean, it's fascinating, though, because the parts of Interstellar that get criticized, the sentimentality, the weight of the father-daughter relationship, that's Spielberg's entire thing. He would have nailed those. The parts Nolan gets credit for, the cold scientific precision, the visual ambition, those are legitimately Christopher Nolan. So, I mean, a producer once called Nolan a cold guy who makes cold films, and Nolan said Interstellar was his attempt to prove otherwise. The irony is the emotional parts of the film are where even Nolan's defenders say he struggled. Spielberg might have made a better version of the movie he walked away from if that was all you really gave credit for. I don't think that Interstellar would have been nearly as good with Steven Spielberg because, like, Spielberg would have nailed the emotional part, but then the cool parts that have people going back to Interstellar, the space stuff, the staircase and all that, he would have thought that was way too convoluted and complex. He would have tried to dull it down, and it would have been just like, who spilled water in this tea, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, he brought in Jonathan Nolan, Chris's brother, to write the first 2 drafts of the movie, which didn't stick. Jonathan told him, if you walk away, my brother's grabbing this. He's already bugging me about it, right? So Spielberg stepped back. Nolan jumped in the next day. Spielberg's quote this week about it: "Interstellar was a much better movie in Chris Nolan's hands than it would have been in mine." So it sounds like even Spielberg agrees with you there. Yeah. All right.
We don't need Spielberg getting another chance at anything.
Right. Let's talk behind the mask. The Rise of Leslie Vernon, a 2006 indie horror mockumentary cult classic. 20 years later, they've officially announced a sequel. Original director, writer, cast, all returning. Launching a Kickstarter, actually, to supplement it, but said we're making it either way. Glosserman's quote, for 20 years, people asked if Leslie would come back. The truth is he never really left.
That's a great line. That's like, we don't want to see him come back. We want to be like, oh, he was here all along. That's already a great twist.
Yeah. No,
I mean, did you see Behind the Mask? I loved it.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a classic, dude. Yeah, Behind the Mask, long before The Office or anything like that. They basically just like are following a serial killer. So he's like, yeah, so I wait out here in the woods and she'll come outside and she'll like bring the trash, and
that sounds fantastic.
He's like, it's a long game. You make a noise here or there, and you just like,
but it's mockumentary style.
But you never let her actually know you exist.
I wasn't even aware of this.
Yo, it's a fantastic movie. I
Okay.
believe if you look up the cast, the hero is played by a guy who's usually a villain. If I remember correctly, Freddy Krueger is in Behind the Mask as the Van Helsing type to play against type.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I'll have to check out that original. That sounds fun, and keep my eye on the sequel.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on here. We've got Zaslav's Golden Parachute, right? And CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery Company being acquired by Paramount Skydance. $111 billion enterprise value. SEC disclosure this week, the top value of his Golden Parachute is $886.8 million.
It's like when you played Monopoly as a kid and you're like, this isn't even real. These numbers aren't real. It's like every time you read some of this stuff for the people that are just so far at the top, you're like, what? These aren't real numbers. What are we talking about right now?
So we're looking at $335 million estimated tax reimbursement, $34 million in cash severance, $517 million in equity. ISS, major shareholder advisory firm, is recommending investors vote against it, calling it one of the highest Golden Parachute estimates ever observed.
The context matters here. Zaslav is the person who shut down finished films as tax write-offs, gutted entire divisions, presided over brutal content cost-cutting in recent Hollywood history, and he walks with nearly $1 billion. The shareholder vote is April 23rd, same day as the NFL draft.
ISS still recommends voting for the overall Paramount merger. The deal itself is fine. It's one of the person's exit package that's extraordinary, even by extraordinary standards.
I'd say, I mean, is this a negotiation thing where they just start really, really high and see if they can get it? See if they just want you to go away?
Right. Must be, because this is ridiculous.
How high would you write a check if you knew Disney was going to cash it, or
True,
or like Warner, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's go for some F1. Story isn't one race or one driver right now. The cars are actually the story where we stand. And Verstappen questioning whether he even wants to be in this sport. Where does that keep us, Ian? Where are we right now?
The 2026 season is F1's bold new technological era, right? We've been talking about it. Roughly a 50-50 split between combustion and electrical power. And almost immediately, it has created problems nobody fully anticipated. Shocker. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia were both canceled. There's a 5-week gap between Japan and Miami. 3 sets of meetings are happening during that gap because the cars are genuinely controversial.
What's the core issue here?
Super clipping. At the fastest sections of track, even at full throttle, the engine automatically drops top speed to recharge the battery. Lando Norris revealed he made an unwanted overtake on Lewis Hamilton because of when his engine deployed power. The cars are making decisions the drivers are not always choosing.
That's no good. Yeah, you had Max. He gave a quote from Japan. I keep telling myself every day to try to enjoy it, but it's just very hard. He called the new cars anti-racing. You had Fernando Alonso call F1 a battery world championship. Hamilton said it's one of the least enjoyable aspects, but also said it might be the best on-track action he's experienced in his career. There's real tension between what it looks like from outside and what it feels like from the inside. And there was a serious safety incident, too.
At Suzuka, Ali Behrman crashed at 191 miles per hour, avoiding Franco Colapinto for Alpine. Galapinto was not deploying energy at that moment. Massive speed differential. Behrman escaped with only a knee contusion. The sport got very lucky. McLaren's Andrea Stella said it had to be at the top of the agenda.
So what are these meetings that you mentioned trying to fix?
Like I said, 3 sets, April 9th and 16th, right? So we've already had one. Technical Advisory Committee, all 11 teams, all 5 engine manufacturers, FIA and F1 reviewing potential changes. April 20th, team principals vote on actual changes. Software only this year. Hardware is locked under homologation until 2027. So the FIA already reduced permitted energy recharge in qualifying before Japan, cut super clipping by about 4 seconds per lap. Hamilton's quote on the meetings: there will be a lot of chefs in the kitchen. It doesn't usually end with a good result.
Yeah. Red Bull's championship position tells a story by itself.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the constructors. 16 points. Mercedes leads with 135. 4 straight championships. And now they're 6th. And then there's the Lambiase story, which might be the most significant F1 news this week that isn't about the cars.
Yeah, walk me through that.
Giampiero Lambiase has been Max Verstappen's race engineer since 2016. All 4 world championships, 2021 through 2024. He's leaving Red Bull to join McLaren as chief racing officer no later than 2028. So McLaren has already poached Rob Marshall, former Red Bull chief designer, and Will Courtney, former Red Bull sporting director. Now the closest professional relationship Verstappen has in the sport is gone also. After the 2025 Abu Dhabi race, Verstappen's 2-point title loss, Lambiase told him on the radio, "We showed them one final time who's boss." Verstappen called him my friend post-race.
Horner was sacked in mid-2025. Marco left at the end of 2025. Wheatley left to become Audi principal and then left that too.
The brain drain is real. Verstappen is frustrated with the cars he calls anti-racing, sitting 6th, losing his closest ally to a rival team, with the infrastructure around him having largely departed. Do I think he actually retires at the end of 2026? Maybe 30%, but the accumulation of circumstances is the story that's building.
All right. When we do get back to racing, we'll be in Miami. So that's next up. We got a betting card for that.
Full card before race weekend, hammertruckproductions.com. Units only. If gambling is a problem for you, call 1-800-GAMBLER. ncpgambling.org.
I think that about covers it. That was you got some F1, some draft preview, a little pop culture for you. Anything else, Ian?
I think that it's important to point out that the draft can come off a little boring, but hopefully some of these names, when they go off and you hear that they have really taken off, you'll be like, hey, I remember those guys were talking about it. Excited to hopefully make some announcements about local F1 rewatches in the future, as far as in the Roanoke area. And as far as the Charlotte area, I don't know if you actually go to any, but just for the F1 fans to keep an eye on the horizon. We've got a big North American poll here coming up in May. We've got Miami. We've got Canada. And then we've got everyone's favorite brunch race, Monaco, in June.
Ah, yes. Everyone's favorite brunch race.
Right. At least in our time zone. So, just as I was looking at the times races are going to happen, all the F1 fans who are listening, congratulations. We get to watch things in real time at a normal time.
It'll be great.
I lived through Japan.
All right, y'all. Until next time, everyone have a good week, and we will see you next time.
Peace out. I guess everywhere we're not dropping bombs.